I know. Another one-of-one Black Prism rock card we got to talk about today. But I'm going to set some stuff straight with people using this card as the talking point. But we've got a lot more to talk about today, such as a rare vintage piece you rarely, if ever, see, a card that can teach you, and it taught me because it was my example, a lesson in patience, and not one, but two questionable sales of the month. Are they questionable because it's good, or are they questionable because it's bad? Stick around and find out. This is the Wrestling Card Market Watch for June 2023. Another month in the books. Seems like it was just yesterday that was a brand new year in 2023, but here we are at the halfway point. And this may be the most exciting year we've had thus far as like things I can talk about with these videos. Tons of talking points, both good and bad. As always, the goal of these Market Watch videos is to pick some sales or some interesting trends I've seen and just kind of talk about it. Not to tell you what to buy or sell, and not to tell you, oh, this sold for too much or this sold for too little, but just to kind of talk through some buying habits I'm seeing of people and maybe ways that it can help you build out your collection. Let's go ahead and jump into some fun, interesting, questionable, and much more sales that we saw in June of 2023. The headline sale of the month, 2023 Prism WWE The Rock 1/1 PSA 9, $16,800 with buyer's premium. Okay, so most people know why this would be an important card. It's a 1/1, it's a black prism. And of course, it's The Rock. And sure, it didn't sell for the same as the 2022 version of this same card. And people continue to argue over these two cards. It's been talked about to death. And I'm not saying talking about how great the sale is or how cool it is that somebody added this collection. I'm talking about the arguing about, well, this is a higher grade, it should have sold for more. Well, this is the first one, clearly that sells for more, and blah, blah, blah. And I've talked about this stuff before in podcasts and in even previous videos on this channel, but honestly at this point, I'm just sick and tired of hearing about it. That being said, what I am not sick of is seeing major big-time wrestling card sales. It just gets me excited. And no, not because I'm the one who sold this card or I'm the one who was bidding on it or buying it. So you may be asking, well, Zhan, if you didn't buy it, and you're not the seller, why does this make you excited when you're not even affiliated with this card? Because it's awesome to not only see the sales, but the popularity and the demand of wrestling cards just continue to go up. Is it a slow climb? Absolutely. But we're getting more collectors and we're seeing bigger sales on a regular basis. See, for the longest time, many people out there wanted to see wrestling cards in the upper echelon of the hobby. The big sales, the hobby headlines, just like all the other segments of collecting. And I think that really boils down to just us wanting the respect. And I think over the last couple of years, we've finally got it. I've spoke about it before, but in the meantime of all of this growth that we've had in wrestling cards, we've also had a ton of negative detractors, both inside and outside the wrestling card collecting bubble. Many people on the outside of the wrestling card bubble think that wrestling card collectors are freaking out over nothing. Bro, sports cards sell every day for thousands. This rock doesn't mean a thing, bro. Come talk to me when your wrestling card collectors can afford to wear this cross-body bag or flipping some 6 stacks of slabs, bro. Unfortunately, a lot of people that don't understand wrestling cards or wrestling in general think this way. But unfortunately for those guys, wrestling cards are here to stay as a major collectible space. So all the hype beast bros out there, all you sports card guys that think you're too cool or too hip to carry wrestling cards in your showcases, while we would love to have you be part of this community and help teach you the ins and outs of wrestling and wrestling cards if it's something you think you could either make money on at a card show at your shop, or maybe you are a lapsed wrestling fan and you want to get back into it, we would love to have you and help you. But if you're going to take this attitude towards it, it's your loss. Because people are getting sick of card show vlogs. They're getting sick of the investment talk. Nobody cares about your Zion and Jaw cards. Now that being said, let's dive even more into the negative and talk about the wrestling card collectors who just can't let this stuff go. Come in close. A little bit closer. I really need you to hear this one. Were you planning on buying this Rock 1/1 card or even the first one? Are you a Rock super collector? Are you really into the high-end part of WWE Prism or even ultra modern stuff? Because if your answer to all of those things is no, then stop complaining. Many of you out there, honestly, just need to mind your business. Can everybody have an opinion? Sure. And that's what social media is about, is discussing fun things. A lot of times, many of us in the collecting community can have different opinions, but we can still get along. That being said, there's a lot of people out there that have drawn this imaginary kayfabe line in the sand, so to speak, with certain wrestling cards, and I'm just never going to get it. I'm sorry. Again, many of you need to mind your business, collect what you like to collect, regardless of what that is, and just be happy for all of the awesome wrestling card sales and wrestling card products that we're seeing come out. And if you don't like it, that's fine. I don't like every single thing that comes out. Do I agree with every single sale? Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares because it just is what it is. I keep doing what I'm doing. I keep having fun collecting. And I think that's what all of you should do. As I stated earlier, we're seeing bigger and bigger wrestling card sales each month, it seems. If not, just the baseline seems to be higher on a regular basis. And we're seeing more and more collectors come into the space. Wrestling cards have arrived. I think I've said that before. I sound like a broken record, but it just keeps going and going and going. We are on the map. We're not going anywhere. In fact, I think Big Stevie Cool actually said it best.
We're taking over!
So again, if you don't play in the ultra modern high-end or even vintage stuff, if you like those cards but you're not really into the high-end high-grade stuff, that's fine and you can have opinions. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, as I stated. But that being said, if you don't have anything good or positive to say about the rise of wrestling cards, the more collectors that we're getting in this great community, and the excitement level of wrestling cards going forward, mind your business. Get a life. The totally awesome sale of the month, 1987 Topps WWF Topps Vault, negative proof, 1 of 1, $999. However, a best offer of $400 was accepted. We do see these Topps Vault 1 of 1s trickle out from time to time. In fact, I was lucky enough to get a Karrion Kross rookie from Undisputed set of this same Vault 1 of 1 from Topps. While these truly are 1 of 1s, they're not quite as sought after as the pack pullable 1 of 1s. That being said, $400, pretty good sale for this one. It's not a rookie card, it's not a first. It's just awesome. A truly one-of-a-kind Hulk Hogan card to add to someone's collection. I mean, come on, who doesn't love the 87 Topps design? Such an awesome, iconic design that's actually been ripped off several times. All the cards in this set look great, no matter who's on it. Sure, you can nitpick photography or placement or whatever, but the design is what I'm mainly talking about here. And I really wanted to bring this sale up particularly because I wanted to point out that even in vintage, rare, scarce, hard to find cards are out there, and it's still not all about the grade. I think that older cards and sets a lot of times kind of get a bad rap, and that being for not having the chase or the 1 of 1s or those golds out of 10, because whatever's in the set is just what it is. They're all just kind of base cards, right? You can't really differentiate a lot of these older vintage sets except for by grades. So the PSA 10 or whatever the highest grade is in the pop reports, those become kind of the chase cards, the 1 of 1s. But that being said, it's always a moving target because more can get submitted, and maybe the pop 1 actually turns into a pop 7 within like a couple year span. So then it becomes not really that rare. But this is a great example of if you know what you're looking for, these rare, one-of-a-kind items still pop up in the older sets. Dig into the products you like. Have those eBay saved searches set up because you just never know what kind of rare, scarce stuff like this is going to pop up. And while I'm the farthest thing from a Topps fanboy when it comes to the wrestling cards, I think there's a lot of older stuff out there, and I'm not even talking like 80s, 90s vintage WWF stuff. Even some of the mid-2000s stuff. I think there's a lot of great stuff out there, kind of hidden gems that people are really sleeping on. But meanwhile, some of the collectors who know what they're doing, or if they're super collectors, they're digging through the weeds to get to this stuff, and they're scooping it up. It kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that you would have seen available a few years ago, like say 3-4 years ago, and maybe you saw an item sale for like $100 then. All of a sudden, that card that was $100 then is maybe like, $2,000 now. And you may be asking, well, why did it go up so much? Because of the demand, and the collector originally who bought it thought it was awesome, thought it was cool, didn't really care if it was going to go up in value. They just thought it was an awesome deal and a cool item. And again, I think that's some stuff that maybe you could find kind of falling through the cracks in some of these older products. While everybody is really focused on the ultra modern stuff, say you have a talent that's in that ultra modern product, you can go back and start digging through the weeds on the rare stuff from Topps or Leaf or Upper Deck or whoever's put out any kind of wrestling product of a name or a talent that you enjoy, and start finding that really rare stuff like this, what we're talking about today. Not to mention, if you're on a budget, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in the higher end ultra modern stuff, and you're like, well, I just can't bring myself to pay that, or I can't afford that. A lot of this other stuff that you can find, maybe it's just as rare, but it doesn't have that Prism brand name. Or maybe it's not that high-end Topps product. Again, maybe it's Leaf, or maybe it's a lower-end Topps product. That doesn't mean that they don't still have cool, rare, scarce cards out there that belong in your collection. The surprising sale of the month, 2023 Prism WWE Karrion Kross Gold Shimmer out of 5, $100, but a best offer of $100? Okay, So let's talk about what happened with this one. And let it be a lesson learned that I learned that maybe you can learn. And that is having a little bit of patience. So this card has popped up 2 different times. The first time I saw it, it was pulled by the seller for some reason. I don't know why. And the second time is this example, and it was listed at $100 for an auction. So I looked at the price. And as an owner of 3 of the True Gold Prism cross cards, call me a hoarder, I knew what I paid for those, and I was kind of like, okay, well, I think this maybe a little bit overpriced, but maybe not too far outside the budget. I say all that because I'm saying that I know what the market value would be on the True Golds and kind of relating that as a comp, if you will, to this one. And so the Shimmers are numbered out of 5, whereas the True Golds are numbered out of 10. So hypothetically, the Shimmers are more rare. But they just don't bring that same value that the True Golds bring. I know it sounds weird, but when you really dig into the collecting base of Prism, it just is what it is. So I sent a few offers. And I sent offers that were actually more than what I paid for the True Golds. They were instantly declined. So I said, you know what? I'm just not willing to pay this price for this card at this exact time. Fast forward a few days, the card sells. It disappears off my eBay watch list. So I had to see what it actually went for because it showed that it was sold at $100, which was the starting bid. I immediately went to 130 point to see what I could find. And what I'm guessing is that someone put a bid on it and then maybe message the seller, or maybe they arrange something for a buy it now at 100 where they would just put that initial bid in and then in the item for that price. So this is where it gets interesting and where I think there's lessons that can be learned. What was my reaction to this sale? Did I get mad? No. But Zhan, you should be mad and upset. You should take your own advice and just pay up for the rare, scarce stuff that hardly ever pops up. Come on, Zhan, what kind of super collector are you if you don't pay up for these things? While all of that stuff may in fact be true, at that exact moment, I just wasn't willing to budge over what I was putting in for offers. And that's okay. There are only 5 of these cards made, and I was thinking, well, you know, it's not Roman Reigns, and it's not locked away in a collection of, say, if there was a Hulk Hogan of this that nobody's ever going to sell. Chances are I'll probably see another cross at some point. And again, that's kind of rolling the dice with there only being 5 copies. But I was willing to do it. Fast forward a few days, and I want to give a big shout out to Sean for tagging me in this on Twitter. And it's an example of what I love about the wrestling card community. When they know you're a collector of a certain set, when they know you're a collector of a certain talent, a subset, an insert set, super collecting, people learn what you collect, and they start tagging you anytime they see that person pop up in a sales thread or on eBay. But anyway, I contacted the seller on Twitter and put in my offer, which was the same offer that I had put in on eBay for that previous one that sold that I missed out on. And it was accepted. Now, did I get a little bit lucky? Sure. I may not have ever seen one of these again. I may not see one to this day. And I still do need another one if you see one out there for that Prism binder project, which stay tuned for my Instagram and Twitter accounts for that. I haven't completed the whole thing yet, but you'll see as it kind of unfolds what I'm doing with the cross Prism stuff. But going back to this card, again, only 5 made and I missed out on 1. I may never see another one. And that is just the risk I was willing to take at that time. I had a number in mind and I was not going to budge over that. Even if that means it hurts my collection by not having that card in it. It's one of the few times that a cross card that's like, again, say numbered to 5 or less, or even 10 or less, it's one of the few times that I didn't just pounce on it when I saw it. And it paid off. Now, will it pay off going forward? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's a case-by-case basis with certain cards and certain talents. But on the flip side, while my Karrion Kross Super Collection, again, I always like to throw that out there, interesting play on words for his character, while that is the top priority in my collecting, I'm not going to spend over anything that I've budgeted to spend on the collection. I'm not going to go into debt over a card that I just have to have. And the thing is, I have enough hobby-related things going on outside of the Karrion Kross collection that keep me going, keep me motivated. Creating content and running my eBay store keep me entrenched with the hobby, even though they're not technically part of physically collecting. I know it sounds weird, but those things work as a great distraction for me. When I miss that PC card, when I miss out on that auction, instead of having that FOMO and going out and spending a bunch of money on something just to buy it because I missed out on the cross cards, I then just save that money, kind of take a deep breath, recollect, and then I have even more money to spend when even more rare stuff pops up. Or in this case, when that card pops up again, I could get it for the price that I originally wanted. But this card makes the surprising sale of the month because someone actually wanted this card more than I did as the Cross Super Collector. Somebody paid more than me, and that's saying something. It's always a surprise to see cards that you don't expect to sell, be it from the set or from the talent on the card, to sell for more than they do. It means that people care and that there's, again, an ever-growing collector base in wrestling. You could also say that my actual purchase of this card is also a surprising sale of the month, because there was a chance I was never going to see one again. The hobby is wild. But speaking of wild, all right, so we've got 2 sales under this questionable banner this month. One of them is legit because I'm surprised at the number it sold for, and the other one, well, it's not exactly in line with what we're being told by a lot of wrestling card collectors out there. So let's jump into the first one. 2023 WWE Revolution Asuka Stargazing Insert Galactic, $79.99. However, a best offer of $70 was accepted. So since the initial release of last year's WWE Revolution product, people have been going crazy for Galactics. The wrestling card community has really latched on to knowing how rare these things are. If you see a Galactic out there of your favorite superstar or someone you collect, you better jump on it. Don't do what I just told you to do in the previous discussion that we were talking about on the cross card, because these may be even more rare than something out of 5 based on how much they surface, not actually how much there are printed. I know it's a little confusing, but it just is what it is. And I'm just as guilty as anyone about talking about Galactics and their place within the hobby, be it in wrestling or in other sports. So all my feelings on Galactics and the popularity or pricing or rarity or whatever you want to talk about it, my feelings haven't changed on Galactics. So you may be watching this and saying, well, if you're saying that about the Galactics, why did this one sell for so little? Because at the time of recording, you have the WWE Women's Champion, Asuka, on this card. So she's the top talent with the belt, and her cards are generally always selling well. Everything from base cards all the way up to the really high-end rare stuff. And plus, this is a Galactic. It fits that category, so everything lines up with this card. So why is it not worth more? While it's a little bit questionable on the surface, in my opinion, this card didn't sell for as much because it's an insert card. It's really interesting when you kind of go back and look at how, like, I collected as a kid. Insert cards were everything. If you pulled an insert card of, 90s Fleer basketball, and it was like some guy off of a terrible team, it didn't matter. It was an insert card. It was immediately going to be more sought after and worth more than just the base cards. But that being said, with the introduction of parallels, it's kind of changed things. And people's collecting habits have changed as well. I've spoke about it many times, but the parallels of base cards always sell for more than parallels of insert cards for modern collecting. It just is what it is. But that being said, I've also spoke about this before, that in my opinion, a lot of times the insert cards have visually more appeal. They have a better image. I like the designs better than the base cards. So for many collectors, that can lead to steep discounts that you can find with the favorite person you collect or any kind of parallel set you're building. Meanwhile, I'm just saying, hey, if you dig the card and it fits your collection, fits that super collection, scoop it up. Now let's move on to the other questionable sale of the month. 2022 Upper Deck AEW Hook Gold High Gloss out of 10. $203.50 with $5.95 shipping. When Hook came onto the scene in AEW, everybody was hyping this guy up. Everybody wanted Hook rookie cards. Everyone was doing the speculating game. Meanwhile, I've just never understood the hype personally. But again, just my opinion. But let's talk about this sale. Not only does it prove me wrong, it also proves a point that I talked about recently on my podcast, that people still want Upper Deck AEW products. There's a demand for the cards out there, despite what maybe some of the people that work for the company say isn't existing. Sure, maybe Upper Deck hasn't handled the license properly, but that hasn't detracted collectors from going out and getting the cards they want, this being a prime example. I think these gold high gloss cards are looked at by many as kind of AEW's version of a Prism Gold. Numbered to 10, it's gold. It's got a little bit of a different shine to it, but it's still not that Prism shine. Now, do I think people would prefer a chrome or a Prism style AEW product over a paper? Absolutely. But again, it's the closest thing that you're going to get some of these AEW talents into a Prism Gold, which has kind of become like a, pun intended, gold standard collecting pieces for wrestling card collectors. And clearly, people are willing to pay up for these things with this sale. So you may be asking, okay, well, I see everything you've talked about here and it all makes sense. So why would you say this is a questionable sale? I think it's questionable just because of the amount paid and it's Hook. And I just personally thought at this juncture, with what we've seen from him, we wouldn't see anybody paying this kind of price for his cards, even if they were on the more rare side. But I was clearly wrong, and I really think it's awesome to see, hey, people are willing to open their wallets for the rare stuff that they like, regardless of what anybody else thinks, including myself. Clearly, somebody liked Hook enough to put this into their collection, and I just hope more of you out there watching this decide to do that. Whatever it is you're collecting. You don't even have to listen to me if it's something, well, Zhan, you're saying to do this. I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Okay, go for it. Like, whatever fits your collecting habits, your collecting budget, your collecting styles, just go do it. Just block out the noise that everybody says you have to do. Now, can you take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, maybe apply part of it? Sure. Maybe you can listen to people on Twitter or Facebook groups or any of these people who have been collecting forever. You can take bits and pieces of stuff that they recommend you do, or maybe it's a way that someone else collects and you want to take the way that this person collects and this person and this person and kind of tie it together in how you collect. That's what I think everybody should do. What do you think about these two questionable sales or any of the other sales we've talked about in this video up to this point? Leave a comment below. Let's get a discussion going. Let me know what you think about these cards or your thoughts and opinions. Not to mention, while you're down there leaving a comment, make sure to check out all the links to all the ways you can help show your support for my content. Links to the eBay store, links to Patreon, links to my social platforms, and much more. If this video brought you some value today, hit that subscribe button, give me a like, and spread the word about this channel. Get new people into collecting. Maybe there's some newer collectors that need, not necessarily, I'm not an expert, so I'm not giving expert opinions, but maybe they could watch some of these videos and, again, take bits and pieces of stuff that myself or anybody else on this channel has talked about, and it just helps them in their hobby journey. Until the next video drops on this channel, click the videos on the screen wherever they are for more great wrestling card content in the archives of this channel. See ya.